Item number 11 is an ordinance confirming the mayor's appointment of the city attorney and setting the salary of the city attorney.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, welcome.
Okay, thank you. This is where you actually had a chance to interview a couple people. Sorry, I had that backwards. But I'm here to ask your confirmation of my appointment of Juanita Massey to be city attorney. You know her well. She was your liaison up until I think the first year when she became interim city attorney. Juanita's been with the city for over 24 years. And she has broad working experience and knowledge of local government law, including but not limited to the Colorado Open Records Act, Colorado Open Meetings Law, intergovernmental agreements, government real estate practices, First Amendment issues, utility regulations, governmental immunity, contracts, and legislative drafting. She provides legal service currently and advice to the mayor, city council, the operating departments of the city of Colorado Springs and its enterprises, Colorado Springs Utilities and Memorial Health System. I chose Juanita for a very simple reason. I think we can both trust her. Honestly, I hope you can agree or you can get there. We can trust Juanita Massey to be, first of all, a consummate professional that she's already demonstrated in her role with the city, apolitical, responsive, hardworking, and respected infinitely not only by her staff but by her peers in the law profession here and throughout Colorado. So it's always great when we can promote somebody from within, somebody who's been such a champion for this city for so long and worked so hard. And I'll never forget when I asked her if she'd do this, and she looked at me in shock like, "What are you asking me to do?" I said, "Well, I'm asking you to take care of a bunch of legal stuff." So anyway, with that, I'd like to ask Juanita to step up if she's here. And would you like her to make a comment?
Yes, that'd be great.
Thank you,
Welcome
Mayor.
back to the council.
Well, I've been on this side, I've been over there. It's not an unfamiliar place. Good afternoon. I want to thank the council for the opportunity to stand before you today for confirmation as city attorney. I think the city attorney's office is capable of some great and wonderful work as we have the time that I've been here and looking forward. The attorney staff, the support staff, to a person, they're all committed to the city and committed to the work that we do. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Juanita, could you talk to us a little bit about the relationship of the city attorney's office to the clients that you serve and how that plays out with both council and the mayor, and what your vision is for how you serve both of the clients and how that works under your leadership? I'd appreciate it if you could talk to us a little bit about that.
Certainly. It doesn't work under my leadership. It works under the Colorado Rules of Professional Responsibility. The rules indicate that if you are an attorney for an organizational client, a government, that you have one client, and that is the organization as an entity. So the city attorney's office duty of loyalty runs to the city as an entity. However, we clearly understand that the client has different voices on different levels. The council is a voice, the mayor is a voice, operational departments, staff members, enterprise entities, departments. The attorney's office is organized to represent all of those entities, those constituent client representatives, and actually, ever since I've been here, since Jim Colvin hired me, we've had at least 2 or 3 divisions: litigation, corporate, for a while it was called municipal, and utilities. We've added prosecution, we've added employment, because these are definite areas where we have clearly identified constituent representatives. And so we do our best work and give our best efforts to the city as a whole as it speaks through its constituent client representatives, in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Councilmember Snyder.
Yes, this is, I guess it was Yogi Berra that's deja vu all over again, but my first chance of working with Juanita is I served as a planning commissioner for 6 years, and I'm thinking you were there all 6?
All 6.
Yeah, so I just remember watching her rule on the land use and watching the planning commissioners try to stump her and watching them get continuously frustrated by not able to stump her. But I just I know your love for the city and your dedication to everybody, so I sure look forward to working with you in your new, incredibly deserved position.
Thank you. I'll just mention that Planning Commission is actually a really good example of those constituent client representatives in action. You have planning staff that have to get these items, prepared, their land use applications. And you also have a Planning Commission and ultimately a City Council that has to look at those applications in light of the review criteria and make a decision, should the application be granted or not. We have staff that represent the planners. We have staff that interact with the applicants or the neighborhood representatives who will speak for or against items. And we have attorneys who advise the decision makers, the Planning Commission and the City Council. It's a kind of a microcosm of that bigger discussion that we've had about who's the client and who do you serve on any given day.
Councilmember Martin.
Manetta, I don't have any questions for you because over the 7 years, I think you've already answered every question I had. It is just such a pleasure to have you here standing before us today. I echo the mayor's words about you being trustworthy and apolitical. And I think it'll be very refreshing for all of us to have a city attorney that we can look to and know that we will get good legal advice from and just legal advice, not policy advice or assistance or anything, just some good legal advice. So it's really a pleasure to be here today and have the opportunity to vote for you to become the Colorado Springs City Attorney.
Thank you.
Councilmember Bennett.
Yes, we have in front of us an ordinance. It's an ordinance confirming the mayor's appointment of the city attorney and setting the salary of the city attorney. We have a couple of blanks on there. I'm going to make a motion, but I want to fill in the blanks. As it relates into Section 4, in compliance with City Charter 3-80, City Attorney Winetta Massey's annual salary for 2014 and thereafter, until and unless amended by City Council, will be set at $192,276. Section 4, the effective date of Winetta Massey's confirmation as City Attorney shall be April 9th, 2014. We selected that date because this is an ordinance and it requires 2 readings. So with those additions to the ordinance, I move the approval of the ordinance confirming the mayor's appointment of the city attorney.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any other? Councilmember Collins.
Yes, there was several council members that had the opportunity to interview Winetta, and I acknowledge Mayor Bach. We thank you, and Mike Sullivan from HR. I'm going to be voting against this basically based on the salary. The salaries in the city to me are just totally out of touch of what's going on in Colorado Springs. We constantly compare salaries with Denver and other cities. We don't compare with what's the cost of living is in Colorado Springs. Winetta has an immense amount of knowledge, having dealt with city issues for years. I believe she said 24, is that correct? So she has the knowledge to give the city council and the executive branch what they need. But I will be voting against it based on the salary.
Other comments? This is an open item on the agenda, so we can take public testimony.
May I respond to that?
Sure, go ahead.
First, let me respond to this question of whether or not we should have more than one city attorney. And I want to just offer up again. We have the same form of government as Denver, as you know. Denver's had this form of government, I believe, since 1919. They have one city attorney. It seems to work there. Maybe what we should do is either go up there, Mr. President, you and I, and take Winetta, and meet with Mayor Hancock and the President of Council and the City Attorney in Denver and take them and let's say, how do you all make it work? Because I do see there is, if you just look at the internal conflict that's there. So maybe you've already done this. I've not afforded myself with that, but maybe they can give us some ideas or some techniques on how we work through that. From what I'm told by Mayor Hancock, it's the same with the City Attorney there appointing a senior deputy to serve City Council, but at the end of the day, that deputy still reports back to the City Attorney. So I just would think maybe that'd be worth doing if you could find the time. I'd certainly be willing to go with you. With respect to the salary, Counselor, you all approved, I believe, Mike, tell me if I'm off on this, you approved the personnel policy manual that included the bandwidth for this position. Is that correct, Mike? And the salary that's being proposed, Mr. President Pro Tem, is $194?
$192,
What is the
$276.
minimum salary in that approved bandwidth?
Mayor's asking about the minimum salary, and the minimum salary is in 179, the maximum is 214. And I would like to correct a statement, and maybe I'm trampling on what Mayor was going to say, and that is that the compensation study, you'll remember when we discussed it here and you approved the results of the compensation study, was geographically adjusted. So we picked the cities that we picked, we got the data back, and we spent a great deal of time, some of it confusing, to go through how we did the adjustment. So those salaries are adjusted, that range, we're at the low end of the range. The comp ratio will be, against market average, the salary at 192 will be low.
Well, if I could just add to that, it seems to me that what's important is the bottom line. And salary is a big part of that, but also our performance standards. This city went for a long, long time with step increases, also known in my vernacular as semi-automatic increases. I don't subscribe to that by any means. We probably differ on this. I think we need to attract the very best people and pay them well, but also challenge them. Require them to push the envelope to deliver better and better service and make sure their people do the same. I also think it's also a matter of the number of people we have on staff. It comes down to how much do we think we should be spending on salaries. We ought to have that conversation real soon, I think all of us, on 2015 and for the 5 years to come, because that's a very fair question, Councilor, is how much are we spending on compensation here per capita or per result, if we could figure that out. I would just like to offer, I don't know personally that it's the amount we pay somebody. If that person is performing at the highest level and the results are there and we're working within budget, I hope that'd be acceptable. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other people who would like in the audience to come forward and testify? Candace, please come forward.
Kanda
Welcome.
Califf, Government Affairs Officer for the Business Chamber of Southern Colorado. I've been following this issue for almost 2 years now, and this has to be addressed in our charter. I have nothing against Winetta Massey. She's a very competent, very capable individual, but our founding fathers understood that there had to be conversations when it came to separation of powers and that balance of powers. And right now, as our charter is written, the mayor is in control of the city attorney. So when you, the council, asks for an opinion, it will always be viewed in the light of, does the mayor want this? And it doesn't matter who the mayor is, this will always be how it is. There's an innate conflict of interest. And this has already been witnessed since Winetta Massey has been the interim city attorney. When you guys were, I remember sitting in the audience hearing you ask her for an opinion about something for the City for Champions. When we first heard that, you guys were asking for that opinion over and over, and the first time I heard anything about it was at a press conference with the mayor. So she gave that finding to the mayor first. That does not serve you, and that does not serve the citizens of this city. This is a true issue that needs to be addressed, and it has nothing to do with personalities. This has to do with a conflict of interest. The second thing is Mayor Bach was just mentioning what Denver does. I don't care what Denver does. We're not Denver. We're not trying to be Denver. Maybe some people want us to be Denver, but I think most citizens chose Colorado Springs for a reason. We are not Denver. Let's do what works for us instead of listening to what Denver wants. And I'm tired of hearing that comparison and saying, we're just not good enough. And that's what's being reported. We're not good enough. We're not as good as Denver. I think that's insulting to the citizens of this city, and insulting to the business owners of this city, and insulting to all of us who serve this city. So I hope you will consider soon putting something on the ballot that says we need an elected city attorney who will actually serve the citizens of this city. The citizens, that's who we should be looking at. And I'll tell you, the county clerk and recorder, they're elected. We have so many multiple county positions that are elected. The city should be looking at that. That's working very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Douglas Bruce?
I'm glad to hear that I'm not the only person that thinks this salary is obscene. It is double what the voters chose to pay the mayor. The voters just voted in 2010 that the highest city executive should get $96,000. This is exactly double that. I don't think that that is proportionate to relative responsibilities. Now, I think it's deplorable that you only let the cat out of the bag when Councilmember Bennett made his motion as to what the amount is. I tried to look at it this weekend. That's why I talked to Mr. Cox that you chastised me for publicly. What is the amount? I couldn't find it out, and you didn't have it. He just admitted that it was a blank. Now, that is not a proper notice for a meeting that you're going to give her some mystery salary that won't be, the blank won't be filled in until the last moment. I think I have a right to know that amount. Her office has roughly, give or take, 29 assistant city attorneys, which is too many. I haven't heard any statement from her that she promises to cut back on that. And the city attorney's office spends millions of dollars a year illegally in violation of section 13-90 of the charter that you took an oath to uphold, to let the city attorney take your appropriation power away. Mr. President, you said you wanted a strong city council. You're more like wimps than strong council members when you give away the fundamental power of the city council, which is to control appropriations, and just say the city attorney can pay however much they want. It's been reported was recently as much as $950 an hour, open-ended, when the charter says it has to be fixed by the council at the time the outside attorney is chosen. And that's why that's one of the subjects of the litigation that I filed against the city. I know from personal experience, Ms. Massey was deeply involved in violating and conspiring to take away issue 300 that the voters approved. And I met with her, and she worked on the ordinance to overturn this ordinance, which you can't do without voter approval. That's also part of the charter. Now, because of that activity that she engaged in, the city is going to be liable for tens of millions of dollars of refunds that should have been made starting in January 2010 and haven't been made, and now will have 10% interest because of the Tabor Amendment. The city tried to get that cause of action dismissed, and the judge denied it, which means it's going to a jury trial. You're going to regret endorsing Gwinnett and Massey for this position, particularly at this salary.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bruce. Anybody else who would like to testify, please come forward. Come forward, Tom. Welcome.
President King, President Pro Tem Bennett, members of council. With me today in the audience, and I'd ask them to stand, are representatives of all of the divisions of the City Attorney's Office. Britt Haley, who is Division Chief for Corporate. Tracy Lessig, the Division Chief for Human Resources, is on vacation, so Christy McCall is representing her. We have from Utilities, again, Rick Griffith is out for spring break, and we have Mike Gustafson, Chris Bidlack, and Bethany Burgess. The Division Chief for Litigation, Shane White, is present. Division Chief for Prosecution in the corner there, Michael Curran, and our lead law office administrator, Candy Anthony, in the doorway there. Being city attorney for any city can be a difficult and challenging role to serve and to serve government. The city of Colorado Springs is certainly no different, and one might say it provides extra challenges. I think the change in the form of government has made that position more challenging than it otherwise might be. I believe that Gwinnett Massey is well suited to serve in that role, though, for three primary reasons. Gwinnett has the professional respect and support of the entire office. She is respected by her peers in the El Paso County Bar Association and among the municipal attorneys throughout the state of Colorado. She's a person who looks for solutions, who solves problems. As the interim city attorney for nearly 3 months, she's already made a difference in the office and in the city. Secondly, she has 24 years of relevant municipal law experience, and she knows the subject matter exceptionally well. She is a person of extremely high integrity, and despite some of the spurious accusations that have been thrown about, I think she will do always what is the legally correct thing and the ethical thing. Third, Winetta has worked for the city for 24 years and has the institutional knowledge of how this city functions, where things are. She knows its ordinances by heart. I dare say she probably knows where the skeletons are hidden. And you can't hire that kind of knowledge from someone from the outside. With all of the people who have departed city employment here since 2008, when the recession started, that knowledge, that institutional knowledge she has, is more critical than ever. Now, I understand there are council people that have philosophical beliefs about the amount of salary being paid, but it is an appropriate salary for the nature of the position and the skill and experience that are involved. I would urge council as strongly as I can to unanimously approve the confirmation of her appointment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody else like to come forward? Please, if you want to come forward, do it now. Okay, I just want to give my personal comments. Mayor, I'd be happy to go with you and visit how we can run this city better, and if it's an idea out of Denver that works for us and helps us improve our city government, I'd be happy to ride up to Denver with you and do that. I know that one of the areas that we've had a lot of struggles with is this particular position. And frankly, I just want to compliment you on who you brought forward for this office. Winetta Massey is a lady of integrity, and she's a great lady, and I've thoroughly enjoyed working with her. I'm looking forward to working with her as we go forward. I think one of the areas that we can work better on, and when Winetta and I have had this conversation, is how we handle different clients and how those clients are handled inside the attorney's office, and how we work, council works with the attorney's office, and how your office works with the attorney's office, and how we make that all work. And so she's committed to have Richard Westfall work on how we handle those conflicts of interest so that it makes all of us work better together, so that we can do the representation that you want to do for the city from your perspective, and council can do it from our perspective, and we can have an opportunity to have an honest dialogue that goes back and forth. But I appreciate her integrity, her honesty, and I appreciate the fact that she is going to be honest with us, and sometimes she'll agree with us and sometimes she'll disagree with us, and that's the way it should be. And sometimes she'll probably agree with you and disagree with you, and that's the way it should be too. We need an independent person working there for the city of Colorado Springs and helping all of us make the best decisions possible. And this is a very, very critical position, and I just want to again thank you for bringing her forward. I think she's an excellent candidate for this position, and I look forward to working with her. And I will just say the salary, I think, is a very fair salary from my perspective for her to be compensated at. And we had a kind of a voting circumstance where we came up with that salary. And we want to honor her and her work here and give her an opportunity to serve all of us. So I will be supporting her. Does anybody else want to make a statement before we vote? Councilmember Miller.
I have tremendous respect for the professional experience, integrity, and the personal attributes of Winetta Massey that would make a very qualified city attorney. However, I believe there are some unresolved issues at this point. I will not be voting for confirmation at this time for primarily two reasons. The first is that when City Council passed a budget ordinance and overrode a mayoral veto last December, that ordinance was attested by the city clerk and became law. The mayor went on television and publicly stated he would disregard the law because he didn't feel it complied with the charter. We live in a land of laws. Any middle school civics class student will tell you that conflicts between the executive and legislative branch are resolved through the courts, not through executive fiat. The rule of law must be upheld. Maybe the mayor's argument would prevail, but he is not the authority to resolve such issues. The ordinance is the law of the land until it is repealed by the council or overturned by the court system. I have been asking how the city attorney's office plans to proceed if the mayor follows through on his promise to break the law and demand that his employees break the law since December 19th, over 3 months. No answer has been given. In fact, on the occasion of subsequent veto, certain members of council were told by the mayor that he would ignore that law too, even if it was overridden. He feels like he has the ability to ignore whatever laws he wants because of the inaction of the city attorney's office. The second reason is because of recent work product from the city attorney's office, not simply because I disagree with the outcome of the draft resolution that will bind the city to the state for City for Champions and other opinions rendered about City for Champions issues, but because although the only authority to appoint outside legal counsel in the charter is given to city council, the city attorney's office has allowed unfettered access to outside counsel for the executive branch to look at draft work products for council-requested opinions and not allowing the same access to city council. And there needs to be equity to give ideas from both the executive and legislative branch ideas independently. I would have to feel confident that such equity will be honored and see a plan of how it will be honored before I could support this confirmation. And this may be the time for council to consider a city attorney that serves the people and that is elected by the people.
May I respond to that, Mr. President? Counselor, I don't make stuff up. I don't make decisions on some emotion or some whim. I rely on data-driven background. You had and I had a formal legal opinion. I hope you had it. I certainly received from the city attorney's office a formal legal opinion that said the council was exceeding its authority on attempting to expand the number of departments in my budget. If the city attorney said, you know what, they have that authority, fair enough. I just want the best interpretation of law, we'll move on. There have been a number of rulings in my almost 3 years here on that. I don't think that's quite right, but it wasn't life-changing, and so I just said, that's behind us, let's move on. So I was told by the city attorney's office, I believe including by Ms. Massey, that council was exceeding its authority and in fact violating the charter and that ordinance, and that it was therefore a legal ordinance. And in my veto, I'm pretty sure we attached that detailed explanation. I resent you suggesting that I'm breaking the law, sir. If you really feel that way, then take whatever action you deem important or relevant. I have, I believe, impeccable integrity in this city for 48 years. This is not about your complaint about me. This is about whether or not to confirm a very good attorney and a good person. So if you want to deal with me, let's do that separately.
Okay, further discussion? Okay, seeing none, let's vote. That is approved on a 6-2 vote. Congratulations, Winetta. We look forward to working with you.